Swim. Swim, swim, swim. Sandy, Sandy.
I'll take it, man.
Okay. Yeah, I believe you. I believe you. I'm trying to stay out of trouble. Trying to stay out of everybody's way. You know what I'm talking about? Very hard.
Whenever you're ready.
I got it. Wait a second, this is the most I've done all day. That's what they said downstairs. I don't know.
We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order, and clerk will read the roll.
Freeman, Fusco, Hoke, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand as we are led in prayer by Councilman Neal. Following our prayer, we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Sims.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There you go.
Clerk will read the minutes from our previously held meeting.
Minutes from December 3rd, 2018. Council convened in regular session at 7 p.m. with Vice President Fusco in the chair. All members were present except Somerville, later excused. Minutes of the previous regular meeting were approved. Reading of petitions and communications. Passage of the consent agenda. Report of standing and special committees. Passage and referral of new ordinances and resolution. Representation from various departments and divisions. Public speaking period. No further business on a motion by Hoke. Council adjourned at 8:08 p.m. to reconvene a regular session on December 10th, 2018, or special call.
Any corrections or additions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Letters, petitions, and communications.
Renewal application for Donald E. and Carol A. Bessemer to have property at 1456 St. Michael's Avenue and 1453 Collier Road placed into an agricultural district.
File.
Renewal of application of Evila Maldonado Ramos to have property at 1080 St. Michael's Avenue placed in an agricultural district.
File.
Notice of a new D1, D3, D3A liquor permit to SKS Cousins LLC at 575 East Exchange Street.
Special attention, Councilman Samples.
Notice of new C1, C2 liquor permit to Namaste Cuisine LLC doing business as Laxmi Convenience Store, 290 East Cargo Falls Avenue.
Special attention, Councilman Kilby. You have before you the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
Rules, Councilman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like time.
Time will be granted. Budget and Finance.
The committee would like time on all three items, please. On two items, please.
And I do believe Councilman Neal is going to call.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like for Budget and Finance to vote on the one item that we took time on because you weren't here last week, and that is the issue that has come before us multiple times, and that is funding for the online budget software. And if the committee doesn't want to vote it out, then I request that make a motion that we go into committee as a whole.
Okay. Councilman Keith, what's your pleasure?
I am more than happy to have it voted on at this point in time. Okay. So this would be the ordinance approving and authorizing the expenditure of $8,500 previously designated for the Akron City Council travel budget for the purchase of a one-year subscription of the Balancing Act Pro, taxpayer receipt, and meeting mode software as ordered in ordinance number 100-218 and declaring an emergency. Okay, so I will ask the committee now for your vote, and this is on number 2 under Budget and Finance. So Milkovich? Yes? Hoag? No. Amobian? Keith? No.
All right. So it doesn't look like we have votes to get it out of committee. Is that correct? I don't know if laws can weigh in on that. I don't know. Yeah. Councilman Neal?
Motion that we go into committee as a whole.
Okay, so we have a motion to go into committee as whole. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. I have to leave the chair.
She has to point a chair, I think. Huh? Right.
So at this time, we're going to go into council committee as a whole. We're going to ask if we can get a motion to actually have Councilwoman Keith take the chair to run that meeting. Do we have a motion?
Motion to have Councilwoman Keith take the chair.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
Mr. Clerk, would you like to read that in one more time?
Hold on one second. Okay. Item number 3 on the old agenda.
Item number 2. Item number 2.
Number 2, okay. Ordinance number 2 on the old agenda. Ordinance approving and authorizing the expenditure of $8,500 previously designated for the Akron City Council travel budget for the purchase of a 1-year subscription of the Balancing Act Pro taxpayer receipt in meeting mode software as approved by the ordinance number 100, 2018, and declaring an emergency.
We will now take comments from the floor. Are there any comments? Seeing none and hearing no objection, we will move forward now on voting for what was just read in by the clerk. And okay, as the clerk reads your name, if you would please respond with yea or nay, please. Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Freeman, he's not here. Fusco. Nay. Hoke. Nay. Kamer. Nay. Keith.
Nay.
Kilby. Milkovich. Neal. Yes. Amobian. Yes. Sampled. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Sims. Yes. Somerville. Nay. Swirsky.
Nay.
Okay, we have a
6-6.
6-6 tie. Still stays in committee.
No, does that mean it still stays in committee? Okay. So the response was 6 for and 6 against, so it will remain in committee. Do I need to? Yeah. I would like a motion to end council as a whole. And a second?
Second.
Thank you so much.
On tonight, we do have 4 public hearings. So we're going to ask if there's anyone here in the audience to speak on any of the 4 public hearings. If you'll please stand at this time so that you can be sworn in by our law department. Anyone here to speak at any of our 4 public hearings?
If you will speak tonight at the public hearings, please stand, raise your right hand, and answer in the affirmative. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Public hearing number 1, legal notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, December 10th, 2018, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m., Council Chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to expand a restaurant and construct a new retail building at 10006 South Arlington.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. James Brooks is the owner of the Corral Restaurant. He's requesting to expand the existing restaurant to the west, along with constructing a separate retail building to the north of the property. The petitioner proposes to raise the northernmost portion of the Corral building and add a new 725 square foot addition to the west elevation of the building. Total size of the structure would comprise 2,000 square feet of area. A drive-up window would be added along the north Firestone Boulevard elevation. Additionally, a 2,600 square foot retail building would be constructed north of the existing restaurant. The building would consist of 3 equal-sized storefronts. Construction materials will include face brick, hardy board siding, stone veneer, and a standing seam metal roof. An enclosed dumpster would be sited behind the setback south of Austin Avenue right of way. One goal of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan is to promote the preservation and revitalization of viable business districts by providing viable shopping areas with room for businesses to expand their facilities and promoting good design standards. The Corral Restaurant was built in 1950 and perhaps even earlier, and the expansion will allow for a larger kitchen area and a drive-up window. In order to buffer the retail activity from the residential properties to the west, a 6-foot solid wooden fence would be installed along the west property line. Planning staff is of the opinion that the proposed development and modernizing improvements will enhance the property and neighborhood along this older retail corridor. Planning staff recommends approval, while Planning Commission recommends disapproval.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone here to speak in favor? And we're just going to ask if you will please approach the podium, if you'll give us your name and your address.
Carson Barnes, my address, 795 South Hawkins, here in Akron. And I spoke this afternoon about the project just in favor of the benefit of economic development that it's going to provide for the neighborhood. I think it was commented also historic preservation. Parenthetically, the city should have an historic preservation officer, in my view. And these kinds of projects, I think, would get a favorable review by an historic preservation officer. I think we're missing the boat on a number of things in terms of our city's position with regard to history and some of the businesses that are located here. They don't get recognized. There's a discrepancy in what was identified as 1950 is the date that the corral was built, and Mr. Brooks says in 1934. I don't know. I think that should be clarified. And as I made reference earlier today, the corral and the Spotless Spa and those areas have played a significant role in East Akron, the social fabric, I would say. You know, they've been traditional, patronized, I know, by my generation significantly, and I'm sure that it could be improved. Comments today with regard to this project focused on Mr. Brooks buying other empty buildings on Arlington Street. I think that's totally irrelevant. We're focusing on that property, and we're in favor of it being developed, at least I am. Also, there was a suggestion of a retaining wall, which alludes to bricks and mortar, and I think that the fence mitigation is sufficient, in my view. With some landscaping, that would be sufficient. Not only the cost, but that's a bit much. A brick attenuating wall is something for a freeway with I don't know what the average daily traffic is, but I asked Mr. Fusco about the average daily traffic. There has not been any data on the average daily traffic there at that site. And additionally, what do you anticipate just in terms of the traffic generation if, in fact, a retaining wall would
Sir, I
have
have
to
to
go.
interrupt you. Your time is up. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Yedetzian, architect. I'm representing Mr. Brooks in coming up with some, I think, good ideas to enhance his existing property. We have gone through the site plan approval for the last month and a half, and I think we have satisfied pretty much all of the requirements, the setbacks, landscaping, design, and I'm in a position to render a personal opinion. I think that area really needs a shot in the arm, without a doubt. And this particular project, where it is and how it's going to be developed, it's going to be that impetus to give energy to the future of that region, area. There are questions in reference to noise. I think we have satisfied that by introducing buffers between the buildings and the adjoining properties. And we have gone through the traffic study and all of the ingredients of how a good site plan could be implemented. So I'm well confident if the planning board would approve this project, it would be a very viable addition to the area. I'm open to any questions you might have. Mr. Bernie Caminier has been also an instrument in the design and implement of the project. He might have to say some words as well.
Bernard Caminier. I understand that the 7th Ward Council person is going to sponsor this project. I would like to meet him before we leave this evening. I don't even recognize any of the council persons, but in reviewing the memorandum that the zoning department has prepared, it struck me as appropriate. Paragraph 2 on page 2, our goal, one goal of the land use and development guide plan is to promote the preservation and revitalization of viable business districts by providing viable shopping areas with room for businesses to expand their facilities and promoting good design standards for building, signage, and parking areas. Corral Building was built in, it says 1950, and the owner says 1934. I'll call that a unknown. The expansion of the building is geared to provide a larger kitchen area and a drive-up window, which is located 45 foot away from the nearest residence. Presently, there's no landscape on the property, there's no energy of a new business area. Anything that can be accomplished, as we have indicated, would be a benefit to the neighborhood, to the owner, to the city of Akron, and we know that we would all benefit by the proposal that we have submitted. We are thankful for the consideration and appreciate the encouragement that you might give us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here in the audience to speak against?
I'm Stephen Papora. I reside at 970. Those are pictures of my brand new house, my personal utopia, my family, my livelihood. We are the people. They serve us. I am Akron, blue collar, Firestone Park boy.
I'm just going to ask if you'll direct your comments to me, okay?
Okay, sorry. We have some confusion here. A historical monument is the Goodyear Air Dock, the Hoover Dam, Akron Paint and Varnish, not a little shack building that was built on 1950 that has no historical value. So there's confusion of preservation. This ain't the landmark building down behind us on corner of Bowery and Main Street. I'm not going to sit here and rehash what I told you at 1:30. I'm just going to clarify a few things. This area has been zoned residential for 90 plus years, and there's a reason why. It's a neighborhood. You want to dilapidate our neighborhoods, let some guy from the west side walk in and build whatever he wants, destroy my neighborhood, destroy our neighborhood. It's ludicrous. The police are understaffed, 70 people, 20%. People have come in before Mr. Brooks bought the corral and dealt heroin in the parking lot. Not workers, just people come in, meet, and exchange. The cops can't control that, and all this is going to do is bring in more crime, depreciate our property values, and the cops can't control it now. As you see with those pictures, that fast food drive-through lane is going to be 12 to 15 feet from my house, from my bedroom window, my son's bedroom window. Any of you dare to stand up and say you'd want that next to your child's bedroom? I get to hear people screaming, gunfire, music blaring. Look at the picture. He's got the dumpster right there in front of my house. I cannot enjoy my beautiful deck. I get to smell that rotting trash in my, as I walk out my house or sit on my deck. If he's going to have people speak, I will have a 34A petition signed. It has to be signed by registered voters in my precinct. Let Mr. Brooks have people in my precinct, not his buddies from West Akron, Firestone High School, come and talk in my neighborhood, Firestone Park, two different neighborhoods. Again, I can't understand how he's going to build a brand new building for $150 a square foot and make money. There are 16 empty buildings on Arlington between Waterloo Road and I-76, and all we're going to have is one more empty building. I see prostitutes, drug deals. I pick up heroin needles in my yard. The one picture is what Mr. Brooks is the first and only attempt to cut the grass. Who in here cuts their grass on these big mounds of grass on the sidewalk where people cannot walk? Leaves them in his parking lot. He's clearly a bad neighbor. He's left 6 tires sit there for 5 months behind his dumpster. If you're going to grandfather a business, grandfather a neighborhood, grandfather my neighborhood, save Akron. Don't let it get any worse. You think a 6-foot solid wood fence is going to block noise from my bedroom window? I work for a living. I'm up at 3, 4 in the morning. I get to listen to 4 a.m. People, you want fries with that? This is a residential neighborhood. It's dead after 9 o'clock. There ain't no business that survives except Circle K and the bars with 16 empty buildings.
Sir, I'm going to have to cut you off. Your time is up.
Well, he closed at 5:30 Friday, so what type of business closes early, sir? With that, God bless you all.
Thank you. Anyone else here in the audience to speak against this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee to refer this item. Excuse me, Amobian? Kamer? Neal? Swirsky? Recommendation of the committee is to refer this item. Thank you.
Thank you. This item will be referred.
Okay, moving on to the second public hearing. Legal notice hereby given, a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, December 10th, 2018, during regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish an auto repair business at 248 Cole Avenue.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Valerie Zavadny is proposing to use this building for an auto repair business. The 6,480 square foot one-story building is constructed of concrete block and sited along the western property line. Paved parking areas with sufficient space for about a dozen vehicles are located on the north and east of the building. Property is accessed through existing curb cuts along Cole Avenue and Bellows Street. The building contains 2 garage bay doors along the east elevation with office space at the northeast corner. Goals of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan include promoting and preserving viable business districts. Proposed tenant, Pearl and Glass Revelations, is an auto body and mechanical repair business. Currently, they have 2 auto repair body shops on Grant Street. However, they are in need of more space and wish to relocate to this location. The past uses of the building include chateau maintenance and crown tile. The property is well secured, and the layout of the well-maintained building is suitable for auto body work and auto repair. The proposed use is an appropriate reuse of a vacant building, and the planning staff can support the request. Both Planning Commission and planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone here in the audience to speak in favor? Is there anyone here in the audience to speak against this ordinance? Anyone in the audience to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Mobian. Kamer. Neal. Excuse me, Swirsky.
Aye.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. This contains 7 conditions that we understand that the petitioner has agreed to with regards to this particular conditional use request. It seems as though the building is well maintained, and I know the ward council representative is in favor of this, so we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay, public hearing number 3. Notice hereby given, a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, December 10th, 2018, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m., council chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a dumpster rental business at the southeast corner of the intersection of East Exchange Street and Fountain Street.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. The petitioner is proposing to construct a dumpster rental business on the property. The city is owner of the property and would sell it, the property to the petitioner, contingent on this conditional use approval. The property would be sold to the petitioner for the price of $92,000. Budget Dumpster is a Northeast Ohio-based company which currently operates in 46 states. They transport temporary roll-off dumpsters for rent. Their dumpsters are typically used for customers who need to remove scrap and debris for home and business construction and cleanup projects. There would be no transport to or sorting of scrap materials on site. The property would be used as a yard and maintenance facility to support the company's fleet vehicles and equipment. Phase 1 of construction would include securing the site with a fence and an automated gate, cleaning up the property and improving the pavement. Phase 2 would construct a 3,500 square foot vehicle maintenance, repair shop, and 1,250 square foot office space. Primary access to the facility would be from Fountain Street. The storage yard would be situated south of the proposed building. The dumpster storage area would be screened from view with solid fencing from all sides of the property. The property has been left vacant for several decades and is former State Route 8 right-of-way. The proposed use would be compatible with the surrounding uses, provided the storage of the dumpsters and trucks are suitably screened from view from the street and neighboring properties, and the dumpsters are thoroughly emptied and cleaned before coming on site and not used for the purpose of containing food or organic waste. Both Planning Commission, planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience to speak in favor of this ordinance?
Good evening. My name is John Fenn. I am the co-founder and CEO of Budget Dumpster. I brought with me Drew Siley tonight. He's from Liberty Development Company. We've retained Liberty to help assist with land acquisition, design, and development of the site. We're honored to be here. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have for us tonight.
Thank you. Did you have any comments?
No.
Okay, very good. Is there anyone else here in the audience to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak against? Anyone here to speak against this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you. I'd like to pull the committee to refer this item. Mobian, Kamer, Neal, Swirsky.
Okay, this item will be referred.
Thank you.
Item number 4, legal notice is hereby given and a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, December 10th, 2018, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to park a commercial box truck at 1156 Reed Avenue.
Mr. Antonucci.
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Misty Grider is requesting permission to park a commercial box truck on this residentially zoned property. It's a single-family home. After a complaint was lodged with the zoning division on June 21st, 2018 regarding the parking of a commercial vehicle, a courtesy letter was issued to the owner. The owner states the truck is used for their power washing business. Due to their size, commercial vehicles in residential neighborhoods can be unsightly and a blighting influence. Their size can also pose safety issues. This dense residential neighborhood is characterized by 45-foot wide lots with narrow driveways leading to rear yard detached garages. There are ample nearby commercially zoned areas for the petitioners to store their commercial vehicle, and both Planning Commission and planning staff recommend disapproval.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone here to speak in favor? We're just going to ask that you approach the podium. Please give us your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Misty Grider. I live at 1156 Reed.
Could you pull the microphone down to you a little bit? There you go.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My truck has been brought to your attention by my neighbor. It's a neighbor dispute that even brought my truck to your attention. I've worked closely with Ms. Samples and Mike Antonucci. I applied for the conditional use permit to be able to park my van there. I've expressed to them that I'd be more than willing to park at the back of my driveway, which is beside my house and out of the view of the public. I actually made a little petition, and I walked around my neighborhood, and everybody on the entire block signed my petition that they don't have a problem with me parking my van there, with the exception of one person who brought this to your attention. Ms. Sample's been out there, and she didn't see a problem with my van being parked there. And I'm a small business owner, and I really don't have any place else to park my truck where it won't get vandalized or something happening to it. It's just a parking space in my driveway, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it if I could have your vote on my parking space. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience to speak in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here in the audience to speak against? Anyone here to speak against this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules.
Okay.
Mobian? Favorable report with suspension of the rules. Yes, this would be to approve the conditional use request. Aye. Kamer? Neal? Swirsky. Aye. Very good. For the committee is favorable, and we request suspension of the rules.
Very good. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. Councilman Fusco, do you have any further remarks?
Yes, I do indeed.
Okay.
Thank you. I know the ward council representative is in favor of this particular conditional use request. And to kind of back that up, there's 13, with the conditional use request that was submitted to the city, there's 13 signatures from the neighbors, I believe, in the community that they all have addresses surrounding this particular property. So based on that, I recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. Councilwoman Samples?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too stand and rise in support of the conditional use. I've been out to Ms. Geiger's home way back probably in June, July, and she did all the necessary steps needed to apply for the conditional use. And I just think it's just a neighbor dispute that has just been long ongoing, and the box truck is not that big. She can put it on the other side of the fence. All the neighbors are in agreement that the truck is not causing them an issue at all. And I would just hate for her, being a small business owner, having to park her truck streets away and it get vandalized, or worse, someone steal her equipment. So I do rise in support, and I will say I've been out there, and they are good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. I do note, because Councilman Fusco shared with me the addresses, these are all different addresses. They are not like signatures of all one house, like 3 or 4 people from one home, which says a lot to me. I, however, would like to know the size of the truck, if possible. Do we have a height on that or anything? That even a picture would.
Yeah, I have a picture.
Okay. Do we have a picture of that?
I think Mr. Antonucci does have a picture.
Thank you.
The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll call.
Fusco?
Aye.
Hoke? Kamer? Keith? Kirby? Belkowitz? Neal? Mobian? Sample? Sims? Somerville?
Aye.
Swirsky?
Aye.
The legislation passed 10-2.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco, what's your pleasure on the rest of the agenda?
Time on items 5 through and including 9.
Time will be granted on items 5 through 9.
Request the committees to file item number 10.
Item number 10 will be filed.
Time on 11.
Time on 11.
File 12.
Item number 12 will be filed.
Time on the balance.
Time will be granted. Economic Development, Councilman Sims.
Thank you, Madam President. The author of the legislation asked that it be withdrawn.
Thank you so much. This item has been withdrawn. Before we move into our new legislation, I do believe we have some special guests with us on tonight in the audience. Is Adrian Clayton with Global Ties here? Very good. Adrian, if you want to just come to the podium and introduce our guest for this evening. I do believe we have some guests from Serbia.
Good evening. I am Adrienne Clayton, and I am here representing Global Ties Akron. And we do have visiting delegates here from the Open World Leadership Program, and they are from Serbia. And I will let their facilitator introduce himself and also the guests that are here with us.
Good evening. My name is Bojan, and I work for U.S. Embassy in Belgrade, Serbia. I'm here with a group of Serbian journalists who are experience America firsthand and have meetings with their counterparts for American Media Organization and University of Akron. We are glad to be here, and we are glad that we were allowed to watch this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. My name is Tatiana. I am a journalist from Niš, Serbia. It's in the south of Serbia, actually. I'm also a teaching assistant in communications and journalism, and I'm very happy to be here in Akron. And I will really have so much to tell to my students and to my friends and family, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, everybody.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jovana, and I'm from Niš, like Tatiana. And I'm happy to be here, and I feel like in some American movies. Thank you for that.
I will translate for George, who is non-English speaker.
Dobro večer svima, ja sam Đorđe, dolazim iz Šapca, iz lokalne televizije u Šapcu.
Good evening, I'm George, I'm from city of Šabac, from Serbia, and I work for local television station.
Prvi put dolazim u Ameriku i mnogo mi se sviđa kako to Amerikanci bukvalno sve rade drugačije nego mi i drago mi je što ćemo naučiti nešto novo i možda primijeniti kod nas.
It's my first time in the United States, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to see how Americans deal with different things, which is so different than in Europe.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight, and welcome to Akron. Councilman Milkovich.
Madam President, if I may, first I'd like to welcome you back, Madam President, to Council, and congratulations on your new baby.
Thank you.
And to our friends from Serbia, hvala što ste došli tu večeras. Mi imamo puno srpski narod da se živi tu u Akronu i hoću da znate ti imaš prijatelj tu u Akronu i Amerika. I hvala što ste došli. Madam President, I would like to, I want to interpret it. I just wanted to welcome them to Akron and let them know that there's a lot of Serbians that live here in Akron, and let them know that they have a friend here in Akron and also in America. And I also want to mention that, you know, their hearts and minds are probably back home. There's a lot of troubles going back over in Serbia. There was a big protest in Belgrade on Saturday, so I just wanted to bring attention to that. And thank you guys for coming, and I'm saying a prayer for you. And when I see my mom tonight, I'll let her know that we have friends from the old country. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Milkovich, for sharing. We will now move into our new legislation, budget and finance.
Item number 1, offered by Keith, ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract or contracts with the United Way of Summit County to implement the 2018 Financial Empowerment Center implementation grant for the cities for Financial Empowerment Fund and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 2, offered by Keith, ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 316, 2017, creating, establishing, and recognizing departments, offices, bureaus, divisions, and positions in the classified service of the city of Akron, requiring that only budgeted funded positions be filled, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Madam President, the committee would like this to also be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of certain city-owned land located in the Hickory Urban Renewal Area to Cascade Valley LLC, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Refer.
This item will be referred.
Item number 4, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of certain vacant city-owned property at VL East Exchange Street pursuant to the Economic Development Land Bank Program, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of certain vacant city-owned property located between Pitkin Street and Dayton Street pursuant to the land banking project, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the donation of certain vacant city-owned property from the land banking project to Summit County Land Reutilization Corporation, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of certain vacant city-owned property at 986 Leroy Street pursuant to the Land Reutilization Program, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 8, offered by Mayor Horrigan, Sims, and Somerville. Ordinance approving the donation of certain city-owned property located at 411 Ira Avenue to the Summit County Metro Park pursuant to the land banking project, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9, offered by Mayor Horrigan, Sims, and Somerville. Ordinance approving the donation of certain city-owned property located on Ira Avenue to the Summit County Metro Parks pursuant to the Land Reutilization Program, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9A, offered by Fusco. Ordinance declaring certain improvements to real property located in the amended airport development area to be of public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of service payments in lieu of taxes, and the deposit of those service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code sections 5709.41 and 5709.43, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9B, offered by Fusco. Ordinance declaring certain improvements to the real property located in the Firestone North Urban Renewal Area to be of public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of the service payments in lieu of taxes and the deposit of the service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code sections 5709.41 to 5709.43, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 10, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizes Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a forestry management-related agreement affecting the Upper Cuyahoga River watershed, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we are asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
As many of us know, the people that work for us at in almost all departments, but especially in our water department, have become renowned for the abilities that they show to improve and to go above and beyond. This was once again something that was done out at our watershed, a pilot program, and using best practices, and with the support and actually the guidance of the ODR, the EPA, and others, and it was successful. So what we are looking for is to move forward on this pilot program that has been successful as we continue to provide in the best interest for our residents the quality of water that we have and to preserve the nature around our reservoir.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 11, offered by Sims. Ordinance authorizing execution.
Miss 10A. I'm still standing.
Hold on. Here we go. 10A? Okay.
10A.
Sorry about that. Item 10A, offered by Sims.
No.
By my wife, Keith. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a right-to-use agreement between the City of Akron and the City of Fairlawn for the use of Akron-owned fiber optic cable, finding that the subject fiber is not currently needed for municipal purposes and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we are requesting suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
We had a presentation by Chief of Staff James Hardy today, along with a representative from Bounce who was here. And this is good. This is, Bounce is one of Mayor Horrigan's babies that he has brought to Akron, and it's doing quite well. This is another integral part to support the Bounce, and actually in the long run we are hoping that it will also be used to support many other facilities and hopefully residents.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Fusco, Hoke, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 11, offered by Sims, ordinance authorizing the execution of a relocation grant agreement with Babcock's and Wilcox Company to support job creation in the City of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Sims?
Madam President, the committee's request is for consent.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item 12.
Okay, we have a motion for mayor and council as a whole. There's a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay. Okay, item number 12.
Mr. Clerk, that item was pulled also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. We will now go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. If you wish to speak to council during this time, we're going to ask that you approach the podium. We're going to ask that you please sign in, that you state your full name, spell your last name, and give us your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting. Remarks should be kept respectful and germane to council business. Speakers who breach decorum may be ruled out of order and removed from council chambers.
Good evening, how are you? My name is Vicki Sutcliffe. I reside at 424 Merriman Road here in Akron. And I'm coming tonight to first off thank council for getting an issuance of some movement on what exactly is going on with the folks over at 15 Broad Street. We do appreciate that they have been given an extension, but I want to keep this information underneath your noses, essentially. Homelessness isn't going away. Akron is one of the worst rates of homelessness in the state of Ohio. And right here in Akron, I was just informed tonight that in the last 2 weeks, 8 people have come to 15 Broad Street seeking help, and one of them was a battered woman who was brought by APD because there was no room at Haven of Rest and there was no room at the battered women's shelter. And so our own municipalities, public servants are still bringing people to 15 Broad Street, which to me says there's still a great need. I'm going to continue where we started or ended last week with the story of Herman. Herman is 66 years old. One could say Herman has chosen to be homeless at different times of his life. After all, he hitchhiked to different parts of the U.S. and once took off to California in a VW Bug with his sister and a few buddies. He laughs remembering that car blew up in Phoenix. There have been a series of interesting jobs in Herman's life in different locations: a casino worker in Arizona and Vegas, an industrial job in California, a full-time Walmart job in Ohio, and smaller patches on work between in Texas, Florida, Colorado, and Washington State. Herman says, quote, "I was always an adventurer. I'd run out of money and move spur of the moment. I've been homeless off and on during my travels. I once camped out on the Colorado River for a couple of months, camped out in Washington State for a bit, went back to Bullhead City, Arizona to live with my mom for a while. She thought I was dead. Then I dated a girl in Texas and lived there for 5 years." But it wasn't until Herman got back to Ohio in his 60s that he became what he would call, quote, really homeless. He had a full-time job making $48,000 a year, but found it was not paying the bills his then girlfriend was accruing. She liked to borrow money. I kept overdrawing on the bank account unexpectedly. Then I injured myself on the job. Even walking became difficult. Our place was in her name. She had the car in her name too. A fight with his girlfriend led Herman to being driven to Akron and dropped off. That's when he started sleeping under a bridge. He got attacked on the street while sleeping by a guy wielding a hammer. And then I came here. It's been an eye-opening experience. Tent City gave Herman some of the stability he needed to gain control back over his bank account that his girlfriend was draining. It took him 4 months to get everything back in order. He remembers that one of the first things the folks at Tent City did was get him a walking cane. Then he was able to find a doctor, get to appointments, and start recovering from his work injury. Now people at the village look to Herman as a father figure.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sutcliffe.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Finan. I reside at 1885, Brookwood Drive. I sincerely appreciate the time you ladies and gentlemen are providing for me to give a couple of comments. Specifically, item number 8 from which was placed on the consent agenda. This is the item where Metro Parks would like to acquire the old pump house on Ira Road adjacent to Summit Lake. I am here to speak on behalf of Friends of Metro Parks serving Summit County. I have visited this pump house and have spent a fair bit of time at Summit Lake at their Metro Parks pop-up nature center, which has been there, I believe, over 2 years. It has enhanced the neighborhood. The nature center has helped to make parks accessible to all, which is the goal. And children use that pop-up nature center daily. They get so excited, and the community members have asked the Metro Parks repeatedly, is this going to go away, as so many other things have in our neighborhood. It promotes continued improvements in the recreational use of Summit Lake. And as a private citizen, I have enjoyed becoming familiar with the area and spending time in the park system around there as well as in the Summit Community Center. It's a lovely neighborhood. So I ask for the council to give consideration to that item when it comes back up on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Vining.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Heather Wicks, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the homeless, continuing the reading that was just started a bit ago, continuing the story of Herman. Herman has been voted into the Tri-Council, a 10th village government position at every village election by a landslide. They look to me for guidance. You've got to be stern, strong-minded, and strong-willed here. I try and treat everyone fairly. I let them speak their piece, and then I speak my opinion. I am a firm person, but they need that. Sometimes you need hard love. Gotta dish it out every once in a while. Herman has a place now, but still volunteers full-time at the on-site day center and continues to hold his elected Tri-Council position. He says things are looking good. He's in AA, living within his income, and seeing doctors for his COPD and arthritis. I appreciate this place and all that's been done for me and the friends that I've made here. I'm like everybody's father here, and I've been entrusted with so much. It's been an uplifting experience. Thank you for letting me read in favor of this excellent program.
Thank you, Reverend Wicks.
Good evening, Dan Rice, 47 West Exchange Street, the Ohio Area Canalway Coalition. Members of the administration, members of council, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak very briefly on the legislation regarding the pump house project. Obviously, I'm speaking in favor of this. As you've heard previously, this is an absolutely fantastic partnership between the City of Akron and Summit Metro Parks that is literally transforming the Summit Lake neighborhood. Other partners are here with us this evening. My great friend Lisa Nunn with Let's Go Akron, Jerry Harris with Summit Metro Parks. We're just really proud to partner with the City of Akron and Summit Metro Parks on this fantastic nature center facility that will really bring much needed services to the community. As we have learned through the Reimagining Civic Commons process, this is a resident-led process that the residents have basically said that we would like something more than just basketball courts. We'd like to have fishing programs, nature programs. And through the leadership of Summit Metro Parks and the partnership with the City of Akron, that is happening. And so we're very grateful for your support. I particularly want to point out the leadership and tremendous support of Council President Somerville, Councilwoman Sims, Councilman Futsko, Councilman Freeman. You all have been real leaders in the community. And I'm very, very grateful to your support for making this happen. And I'm very excited about the future. And please know that the national funders are watching us. Actually, daily I get questions about this project. What's the status of the pump house project? When's it going to move forward? And I tell them we're very excited and that the legislation is pending this evening. And so much so that the national funders have asked us to submit a proposal for a 2.0, which might mean the potential for additional funding to come in to the City of Akron from the national funders of the Rockefeller Foundation, the JPB Foundation, the Knight Foundation, and other national foundations. So thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to partnering with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dee McCall. I live at 1103 Cumberland Drive on the east side. So I wanted to address the council and just some ideas I had. I wanted to address you asking if you were more for the people or just for money initiatives, because what I've been listening to is I've been seeing that we're having outside developers coming into our communities, not necessarily for the community, Because if you look at the dynamics of the community, you would see that it is a poverty-stricken neighborhood, and then you want to put a $100,000 house that the average houses are 10,000 to maybe 60,000 at the max. So it doesn't necessarily match the community. So that to me screams gentrification. So I am totally against that. And I want just to address it that we don't have too much opportunity for the teens in Akron. So if there's opportunity to bring developers here, create opportunities for teens or for these poverty-stricken areas, bring jobs here to have higher paying jobs for these poverty-stricken communities. And also, the buildings that we have that are abandoned that we're donating to the land bank, we are having a houseless problem. So if we could repurpose these buildings that are being donated, maybe to something that could help these causes. Just repurposing a lot of the buildings that we do have, because we still want to keep the culture of Akron. Being a community, we are for the people, yet we only have the people on the higher socioeconomic class. Not everybody has the time to make it out because we are the working poor. So just give an opportunity to speak to the poverty-stricken communities instead of just the Fairlawn Heights or the Merriman Valleys. And yeah, the East Side really has a voice. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Ms. McCall, for sharing.
Sorry.
Hi, Reverend Kurt Weiser, residing in my heart this evening at 15 Broad Street, here to speak on the homeless issue once again. I don't even know who was responsible for making those decisions, but I want to thank whoever moved that day of reckoning and moving to January of next year, allowing more time to find homes for these homeless individuals. We really appreciate it. In a season of altruism and of good will towards all humankind, I want to speak again this evening to your hearts. Innovations in homeless care and service will move us forward as a nation. A rising tide lifts all boats, and when the least among us is served, it serves us all. But do we believe it? The campaign for hearts and minds in any social justice movement is key. Our nation's homeless need a public relations advocate. I would say they need public relation advocates. They have been labeled, stereotyped, and demonized. Many believe they do not deserve help. Many take this position without apology, that they deserve life on the street. They're failures, and they should live with the consequences of that failure. It's our position that dehumanizing anyone hurts us all. You don't need to be a heartbroken humanitarian to see that leaving our streets littered with failed humans who could not perform in society, literally festering in their own filth and starving, is not good for any community. It's not good from a sanitation perspective alone. Many outbreaks of hepatitis A have been linked to the underserved homeless. If not concerned about health, how about economics? A chronically homeless person costs the taxpayer an average of $35,578 per year. And then there's crime. Studies have shown that homeless individuals are more likely to be jailed for property crimes such as theft and nuisance crimes associated with being homeless, such as loitering, sleeping in a car or in public or in transport. We need to realize that homeless people have value. We do not need to just warehouse or hide them or wish them dead. Many homeless go on to do wonderful things with their lives and contribute greatly to society. Don't they deserve to live? Don't they deserve our help? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good evening, City Council, Council President. My name is Edmund Ammons, Eddie Ammons. I represent a company, ETA Development, in reference to minority affairs, in reference to city contracts, from out-of-town contracts. We were treated, we feel, very unfair. I had brought 16 narratives for the different council members to review. this situation has been swept under, covered up, to us hidden, and we'd appreciate any type of assistance from the council. This is why minorities, we're not getting no work, and when we do get some work, we would just run over. Within the first few hours on the job, it was display attacks. Just anything by this company from Cleveland, and we tried to work as a team member with the company from the very beginning, and it was just, and we're a member of the Better Business Bureau. We have no complaints. This company was established in 2010. We had help from about 5 different members of council trying to help us a little bit, but we need the help from the rest of the council members to look into this and just see why, and you really see why the minorities ain't getting no work. And it's right here, and I appreciate any assistance from city council, that somebody would really look into this, because it's terrible how they let out-of-town contractors come in here, do the minorities bad, then they sweep it under the cover, and I got 700 pictures here to show how we were done, obstacles put in our way, materials hidden, it's just terrible how we were treated. And we would like to sit down with some of the council members and really look into this, because we notified City Council Memorial Day of 2016 how bad we were treated, and it's just everything swept under the cover and no help. But thank you. I appreciate your time. I wish somebody look into this, because it ain't right. Thank you.
Mr. Amos, do you want to provide the copies to Councilwoman Mobley?
16 of them.
Okay, perfect.
How you doing? My name is Anthony Winslow. I'm here to represent Beyond Expectations Barber College. We just wanted to thank the mayor, Mr. Hardy, Ms. Tara, for believing in us in the school and assisting us with the funds for students that don't really have too much to be able to go to school. Not many people really believed in the school before then, and we've proven ourselves to be a valuable college and job creator here in the city of Akron. I went to the school on a scholarship, so I can stand here and tell everybody that it actually really is true. I can't fake, any part of this speech that I'm giving to y'all. We just want to thank y'all for seeing the efforts, and thank you to all the city council members who continue to support BEBC and the students, and we appreciate each and every one of you. And stop by, the doors are always open to you guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Winslow.
My name is James Woodard. I live on 1 Canal Square Plaza. I'm here to speak on behalf of the homeless. Why don't they get jobs? Well, we have all heard the story of a panhandler that refused to follow up on a work lead. The fact is that around 40% of homeless work either full or part-time while they are homeless. Getting a job without a permanent address, without access to running water or clean clothes, and without transportation is incredibly difficult. Now add in a criminal record, a disability, or a mental illness. Here's a breakdown of the issues we see in our tent village. Residents battling each day that often stand in the way of obtaining gainful employment. Lack of affordable or available transportation. Bus passes in Akron run about $15 a week. Buses often do not run on routes near available work. Missing a bus means termination of employment, and having something as simple as an alarm clock wake you up to get you showered, groomed, and to a bus on time can be a monumental task for a homeless person. Lack of affordable or available child care. Mothers with children find working particularly difficult while homeless. Mothers are often engaged in the full-time logistics of having a homeless child to feed, shelter, somehow clothe, and educate. We have seen pregnant women be told they must work in order to acquire housing, only to be told by every fast food employer in town to return and apply after the delivery of the baby. But there is nowhere to raise the infant after the delivery, let alone anyone to lend a hand while the new mother works. Physical disability. Lack of health care to manage a disability, trauma, or disease often exacerbates this issue of finding work. An ER will not refuse treatment for a homeless person, but they also will not necessarily refer or certainly not facilitate needed follow-ups with specialists that cost money, require transportation, or ask for documentation the homeless patient might not have on hand. Consider the simple instruction from an ER doctor: go home, take this prescription, rest with the injury elevated, or clean the wound 3 times a day and change the bandage. To a homeless person, these instructions contain a myriad of impossible to-dos. How will they purchase a prescription or bandages? How will they clean the wounds without running water? How will they find their way back to the bridge they live under while injured? How can they elevate an injury while sleeping under a bush? In this way, simple injuries progress into an unaddressed, ongoing disability. We have had several homeless cancer patients at Tent City, a blind man, a deaf man, and many who could not walk easily. Even with disability income from Social Security, they often did not have enough money for housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swarta.
My name is Reverend John Beatty, Madam Councilperson and council members. I too reside in my heart at 15 Broad Street. We talk about Gary. Gary loves to work. He never stops moving. Gary was one of the lucky ones who found work even though he had a criminal record. But Gary also has a congenital heart condition that flares up in episodes that send him to a doctor for observation and medication. He became homeless after one of these episodes meant missing contract labor work. There are a lot of stereotypes out there, Gary says, but anyone who is 1 or 2 paychecks away from the curb, anyone is 1 or 2 paychecks away from the curb. It's not always what you know, but who you know. If you don't have that support group, then you don't have a backbone. Gary's family lives in Florida, and while he loves them, he says they could not always be the support system he needed, as they were busy with their own needs and issues. I come from a family of outlaws. Dad, brother, aunts, and uncles have all been to prison. I left home at 16. I had a stepdad that was there for me, when most everyone else wasn't available. Not to me, not to each other, or society, or anyone. When you don't have support as a child, what are you supposed to do? You start relying on yourself, just taking care of yourself and thinking no one wants you around. That's how I viewed the world. The world didn't want me. I think silver spoon types take their support networks for granted. Gary says he made some mistakes in Florida and went to jail like the other men in his family. Then he got sober and decided to come to Ohio for a fresh start. But fresh starts are difficult with a criminal record. My felony was 20 years ago and they still pull it up. Society doesn't forgive felons. People look at a felon and think, I never did this. You must be a piece of trash. I can't ever really get back into society. But Gary had no trouble fitting in at the Tent Village. He says the folks at Tent Village became a family to him. He stayed in the village for 4 months before finding new work and a place to live off the street. But he still volunteers with the homeless charity every day. I've been here in Akron a year, and this tent city is my new family. I found my support system here. People at the bottom tend to be crabs in a bucket. They're pulling each other down and don't want to see other people succeed. But here in Tent Village, we're helping push each other out of the bucket.
Mr. Beatty, your time is up.
Against the stereotypes.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty.
My name is Steve Nome, N-O-M-E. Live at 1928 6th Street, Cuyahoga Falls. Back in the 1970s, my wife and I experienced a couple of expensive medical events on our own without insurance. We handled it, but it was surely a relief when I was hired by the city in May 1977, began my career at the Akron Health Department. It was great to have a job that allowed me to support my family and offered good health insurance benefits. Since that time, the health insurance coverage played a more vital role in our lives than I could have ever imagined. While my family was relatively healthy, there were some events we never anticipated that would have been financially challenging without the good coverage we had through the city. Now, some of these events occurred after I retired. Always having a healthy lifestyle, I was caught totally by surprise when I was diagnosed with cancer in 2013. While the very real threat of death was present in 2013, I was able to concentrate on my health without the worry of the financial effects on my family. With the combined skills of the staff of SUMA and the Cleveland Clinic and the grace of God, I was able to beat cancer in 2013 and again in 2015. Right after Thanksgiving 2018, my oncologist informed me that new tumors have developed. So in 2019, I will be trying to beat cancer again. I'm confident with the excellent skills of my physicians at both SUMA and the Cleveland Clinic, I will beat cancer one more time. However, I also had confidence over a year ago when I came to council that the city's ill-conceived plan to deprive retiree spouses of quality insurance would be reviewed and an alternate plan might be considered which would provide affordable to both the city and retirees, quality insurance to spouses. Now, I don't think my confidence in SUMA, the Cleveland Clinic, and God has been misplaced regarding my health, but I wish I could say the same thing about the city and the city council doing the right thing for its citizens and retirees in managing city finances. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nome.
My name is Sidney Richards. No time in Akron's history has there been more black people in city, state, county, and state government. I'm wondering why are black people excluded from the economic opportunities in the city with all this representation that we have? Are the people asleep on the job?
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Is there anyone else here in the audience that wants to speak during our public comment period? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close our public comment period and move into our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Keith. Budget and Finance, Councilman Keith. Planning, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilman Keith. Public Utilities, Councilman Samples. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal. Housing, Councilman Kilby. Health and Social Services, Councilman Amobian. Economic Development, Councilman Sims. Green Committee, Councilman Swirsky. Is there anything else coming before council? Councilwoman Samples?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few things. I wanted to first stand and thank the mayor and James Hardy and Helen Tomic for their work on funding BEBC Barber College and helping those in need to further their education and to be able to provide for their families while living here and paying taxes here in the city of Akron. So I want to rise and thank them for that. Secondly, I want to talk about two new businesses that have opened up in Ward 5. One is Sweet Modern. I'll give you some of these. They are located at 2 North Summit Street. They are a mid-century furniture and decoration store. Let me make sure I say it right. They buy and sell vintage furniture. The place is phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it. And the beauty of it is these are Akron residents who started the company. They live here, they pay taxes here, and all the finishers that they hired to refurbish the vintage furniture, they all live, work, and stay here in the city of Akron. And they are doing some phenomenal things over there. Some of the pieces start off at $10, and some of the pieces go up to $10,000. And they have furniture from all over the world that is in this building right at 2 North Summit Street. And I encourage you all to go in and take a sneak peek, maybe out of our pay grade, but I mean, it's right here in the city of Akron, and that's a beautiful thing. And then secondly, there's a new agency for developmental disabilities opening called the Genesis Program. Little bias, it is opened in my old church home at 1104 Johnston Street, and they will provide services for developmentally challenged individuals, and they will also offer adult day programs, non-medical transportation, supported living, shared living, and group homes. They will be having their official grand opening here in the coming weeks, and they are looking for those who are looking to give their parents something to do during the daytime. So they'll have a full open facility for our elders to have something to do with their time. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Samples. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam President. Last week you weren't here, and I spoke of, and as Councilman Bilkovich said, congratulations. But we spoke about the folks who come day after day, time after time to speak to us during open comment period. And what is our responsibility and our obligation to them? I mean, from what they share with us, it should help us form policy that addresses their needs and their concerns. You know, with the Elevate Akron report that has come out, with the discussion that we've had before the CSO project even started about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And if you remember here on council, we talked about establishing a company, the city acting as a general contractor, so that we can guarantee that Akron residents get jobs. But we've heard time and time again, people from the part of our city that has been documented, that have been disenfranchised over the past 30 years, come and say that they're locked out of opportunity. But yet we've had no discussion about this. This goes back to when we asked the question about, you know, what is equity? What is inclusiveness? And we've had this discussion now for, I know the information, we've had it before the new administration came in. I know it's been shared with the administration. Council and administration needs to have a plan on how to address this. I mean, that's our responsibility. I don't know who is providing the oversight of the CSO project now that the Urban League, you know, isn't doing that anymore. You know, what is the minority participation? I know I talked to some of the folks at the union, and they say that, you know, from the union side, that they're pleased. But we have independent contractors coming down and telling us that they don't have opportunities. We have to address that. I'd like for our city to look at doing a disparity study. I mean, the chamber has done one from a standpoint of the chamber. But if we really are serious about this, we need to do an audit on ourselves. That would show that we're serious. And then, last but not least, for the past maybe 2 months now, have brought in information to address the issue about us having our budget online. And I mention that because everything that we talk about goes back to the budget. Can we afford it? Can we, can we finance it? And I'm a little baffled that legislation that we passed to put our budget online so that, one, we as council members would have a tool to understand the decisions that we make and the financial impact of those decisions. But then also so that we can engage our citizens in the process and get their input so that we can determine how to best utilize those dollars. Now, again, we still have a free trial, but we're not exercising it. We voted to tear up the Interbelt. We still don't know what's going there, and the millions of dollars it costs to tear it up. We voted because of the promise of new jobs to invest in infrastructure at Rolling Acres Mall, but we don't know what's going there. As my colleague mentioned once, fortunate enough to get a grant for $10,000 to experiment with the bike lane that we took out. This is a free trial for us to understand our budget, so that close to $250,000 that we sent back from the My Neighborhood Akron program, council could have forecasted that, and we could address some of the needs at Tent City. We could create more small business loans for small businesses that have opportunities. We could have invested, we only had $80,000 at one time in the city's roof program. We could have put more money in the city's roof program. But we're clueless. The somewhat near $50,000 that we've sent back over in City Council's travel budget. So, you know, it was a 6-6 tie. Come back again next week, asking for council to approve the free trial that we already voted on and approved, so that we can get an understanding of our budget. When we come back, that's what we're going to be focusing on, is our budget. And so, you know, whatever excuses have been used in the past on why we don't have it, someone else is welcome to bring in an alternative online budget program. We've been talking about this for 2 years. No one has brought anything in. Been asked to find a funding source. Every funding source has been identified, but yet some on council deny us engaging citizens to help us understand our budget. So, you know, all these issues that come down from Mr. Noem talking about the retirement hit on retirees, to constituents from our community coming down and saying that they're locked out of economic opportunity, to the folks at Tent City asking for help, boils down to us understanding the budget. And so what I want citizens to understand is that this council has an opportunity for free to put its budget online so that we can understand that tool and the impact of making different decisions, yet we haven't done it. So, you know, Madam Chair, next week we'll come back again asking for us to approve that. Whatever excuse, whatever fault someone finds with the legislation, had 2 years to bring it to me, because every excuse that's been brought have addressed that. Okay, it was first we didn't have anybody to put it in. We've got somebody to put it in. Finding a funding source, we've identified multiple funding sources. So next week we'll come back and ask again, because the last thing, some of you have said, well, let's put it in next year's budget. We don't approve next year's budget until after we've done the budget, so the tool wouldn't do us any good. And again, remember, it's a free trial. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Anything else coming before council? Councilwoman Sims.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to recognize Dr. Joanne Williams that's here from Congresswoman Fudge's office. Always great to have her in the house. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Before we adjourn, is there a motion to excuse? Thank you. Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Motion for adjournment? Seeing no objections, we're adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.